Welcome back, our dear viewers and listeners. For this weekend, we are privileged to go through a discussion together. Nations are not built overnight. It is a gradual process to come up with a blend of the nation of Uganda that can be admired by us and the next generation. And we continue to look at how can we build a nation, and without tackling the economy of the nation, it cannot work. Even the politics alone cannot be sustainable if our resource envelope and the ability of citizens to develop themselves is lacking. That's why we continue with our discussion in this second session, looking at the potential of education and natural resource sectors that can transform the developing economies. Uganda is a country we continue, me and our guests, to passionately offer a discussion that gives us information, that gives us a direction, which possibly can shape a certain school of thought. What can we do best as a country to increase our opportunities, our available opportunities that can trigger to be a developed country? And we are concentrating on education and natural resources. We know there are many sectors, including, as professors rightly said it, that there are pillars of developing economies. He mentioned health, he mentioned education, which is already before us as a sector, and also infrastructure, which is diverse, looking at the road, railways, and also the air transport, and also the water, system, the water environment, and so forth. Yeah. And you also talked about information is key. Information, and I think I coined it together with the rightly stated way here, ICT, information, communication, and technology. And the countries all over the world, those which have made it faster to develop, these are some of the pillars you cannot indeed forego. Also, you talked about environment, and which is related with climate change, and also the elements of natural resources. The human capital index, you mentioned about it. Yeah. As we continue with our discussion, dear Professor Augustine, we are happy to be with you, and for the purpose of the viewers to know, once again, those who had not yet viewed such program, me and you have wide knowledge and experience, but especially in the area of natural resource management. And you've, done best, especially serving our generation all over the country, and we appreciate. In the UK, you have done a good work where you were doing, all that kind of delivery of service as a lecturer, and also in those NGOs that supports environmental conservation and natural resource utilization. What we are not lacking, incidentally, I find it's not knowledge. We have knowledgeable people on the globe, including you being part of them. And we know if this knowledge is utilized very well and put into action, it can turn around our fortune. Yeah. The system of education. We've had specific discussion on what has gone wrong with our education system in Africa and developing economies. And we'll be giving a case study also of Uganda, which is just rightly here that we're talking about. Yeah. And what has gone wrong with natural resource management, utilization and management. And because there is natural resource planning, natural resource utilization, and sustainability of utilization of natural resources. What has gone wrong, and then finally we package how we can correct the wrong, or maybe recommend a filling of gaps. But we would like to first go into the insight of it. One time I was with you, I said, you may be a rich man, but yet you are a poor man. Yeah. It is controversial, but yet real. To find that you have all this, but yet you cannot make it. Yeah. It's a pleasure once again to welcome you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, let's start with the case of natural resources. Unfortunately, empirical evidence shows that for nations or countries that don't have the right institutional framework, but they have lots of natural resources, those natural resources tend not to be transformed into economic growth. because of the phenomenon we often refer to as Dutch disease. So when you have lots of natural resources, mineral resources like oil, like gold, uranium, and the rest of them, what tends to happen is that the exploitation of those particular minerals destroys the other sectors of the economy, such that those places where those minerals are mined, the people tend to remain poor, they tend to remain seriously disadvantaged. And that is a problem of not having the right exploitation process, having the right natural resource laws, and ensuring that those natural resources are utilized effectively. You've mentioned corruption earlier as a major problem for a lot of developing countries. When these monies or these incomes are generated from exploitation of natural resources, they are not used to increase capacity. They are not used to build infrastructure. They are not used to educate people, because a highly educated workforce increases productivity and takes people out of poverty. So the countries that have succeeded in actually using their natural resources to grow their economy are countries that have utilized the proceeds of those exploitation to develop infrastructure and to develop human capacity. And once you develop human capacity, develop infrastructure, you will expect that the economy will do better. There will be economic growth. There will be higher productivity. It's on paper that a highly educated workforce is a more productive workforce. And today, the current workforce system, it's technology enabled. And because it's technology enabled, it means that people need to be skilled to be able to play a role in the future workforce. Because technology is taking over everything, which means education plays a very significant role. And when I say education, it has to be the right type of education, the right approach to educating people to take part in this global economy. Sometimes I often make mention of California, the state of California in the US. And that's one state that intrigues me, because that's it has the largest economy in the US. And if it was a country, it would be about the 5th largest country by GDP in the world. The total GDP of California as of today is $3.4 trillion.
$3.4 trillion.
Yes. Now that's higher than the GDP of all of Africa put together. Africa is about just over $1 trillion economy.
Oh, too bad.
California is $3.4 trillion economy.
That's one state. Just one state.
Of the United States. Now, but where I'm trying to get to is this. Every year, California earns $50 billion from agriculture.
$50 billion from agriculture.
From agriculture. Now, think about Uganda. Uganda earns about $10 billion from agriculture. And it's about 24% of the total GDP earning by Uganda. If you look at what it earns. So if California earns $50 billion and Uganda total GDP as of today, it's about $37 billion.
Yes.
So you can see that there's something wrong with our agricultural systems. We have natural resources. We are blessed with land. We are blessed with fertile soil. We are blessed with trees. There are so many things. But we are not even earning up to what California is earning in agriculture as Uganda. Now, what's the difference? It is the level of education and the level of knowledge and skills that have developed. And when I say the word education, it's not just literacy rate. Because a lot of people, Uganda sits very well, comfortably, very high in terms of the literacy rate in Africa, with almost 76% literacy rate for Uganda, which is very good comparatively. But you can have high literacy rate, but people are still not well skilled to be able to become more productive. So why natural resources is very important, and natural resources can play a very significant role in the development of the nation. One thing we must realize is that we need the right kind of education to ensure that we can make use of our natural resources. So if you look at the oil, look at the minerals, the gold deposit in Uganda, it is huge. And if we're utilized, the right infrastructure built, more people upskilled and well-trained, educated, the right form of education, then we have a potential to actually begin to convert a lot of these natural resources and transform it to economic growth. Because if you don't manage it properly, then you don't get the benefit. And we've seen examples of countries that have not done well with their natural resources. By every standard today, Congo should be the richest country in the world by virtues of what they have. But they are not. Why? Because they have not fully utilized their natural resources. But if you look at all other countries which are high-skilled based countries around the world with almost no resources, they are doing well economically. They have bigger economies than the economies of African countries with large economies. Look at Singapore. Look at Norway. Although Norway had some oil which they found in the 70s, and again, proper utilization of that helped them to grow their economy, and today they're one of the richest countries in the world. So we can do well if we can effectively utilize our natural resources.
Yes, thank you so much. And we were privileged, Uganda, among, so far the rating, you've talked about education, not necessarily to mean literacy, the literacy education, where the formal, which we normally refer to the formal education. And still, the in-depth of our discussion refers to part of how our human capital development, especially through building the human capacity, the building, the development of skills and so forth, still seems to be lacking in the developing economies. I landed on a report, it's available to everyone outside there, of the National Development Plan, the third one, the number three. Yeah, we have the first one, the second, and the third. And while the author or those who drafted that National Development Plan, they refer, that's the government of Uganda, right?
Yeah.
They refer to a number of sectors which lacks rightful skilled labor. And the skills they're supposed to acquire, some of them can be acquired here in Uganda and others cannot even be acquired from here in Uganda through education system. And it leaves with a bigger gap. The education we have seems not to be providing even the solution for employment opportunities available. Over 60,000 jobs that are available in the natural resource, that is mineral, energy, and then energy, then another sector, it is petroleum, because petroleum and gas, they are categorized in the National Development Plan alone. And 60,000 jobs. And yet, I wonder what now maybe could be done best and why it has not taken off to a level where we are saying, okay, we have these opportunities and the rightful persons are here who are qualified, skilled. Not only to have a degree and you say, I have a bachelor's degree in environmental, that's what is happening. And I don't know for you at Victoria University how you call it, but we are lacking something, even in terms of the curriculum and the course, the modification of the restructuring of our courses and the content, and then the product, who is qualified in what. I think, I don't know, I do bring it to you, whether our state of curriculum of education, the restructuring of courses, whether it is matching with the requirement of the job market.
Yeah, I would say initially I don't think it was matching, but over time I think universities and other tertiary institutions are beginning to realize that they are not skilling the workforce to the level that is required to match both current and future markets. Government have recognized that, and there are a lot of skilling projects going around sponsored by the World Bank and managed by the Ministry of Education, especially in vocational trade. Because again, talk about the oil industry, the hydrocarbon industry. There's a lot of requirement for people, for technicians with skills in various aspects of the oil and gas related trades, as well as construction trade. And government is putting a lot of effort. But again, I think from time to time, there's need for government to look at the future and project and plan for the future. I'll give you an example. Right now, the future of the economies of this world is going to depend on two key areas: data, artificial intelligence. I'll tell you, for example, how much the Chinese, so much effort they are putting to train human capacity in artificial intelligence. I don't know of any African country that has a very clear roadmap and plan to develop people's skills and knowledge in that area of artificial intelligence. So as artificial intelligence begins to rule the world, Africa will still be behind, because we have not purposefully decided to look at what we do, look at our curriculum, and review our curriculum to match what the job market of the future we need. We can see that technology is taking over everything, and we are still training manual laborers when technology is taking over everything. And if we continue to train manual laborers, then it means that by the time the world, it's at that point where artificial intelligence is ruling the world, we are not even able to do anything. So not just government, but also tertiary institutions, universities, even secondary schools. Now, if you go to China, people in primary school are learning to code. People in secondary school are already coding. And people in the university, it's a given that you must code. And are we doing the same in Africa? Maybe just a few pockets of excellence here and there in some countries where they are beginning to realize of the importance of the digital economy that that has arrived, in fact. And we need to now begin to train capacity. Our education needs to factor in digital economy, digital literacy into whatever we do. Whether you're training to be an engineer, or training to be an accountant, or training to be a lawyer, you need that digital skill. So universities have to innovate. Government has to purposefully design systems that allow us to look at what is the need of the job market tomorrow. And we need to begin to purposefully train people to be able to match the skills that will be required for the future. Otherwise, we are still doing a lot of old traditional things that are almost beginning to be out of date. Actually, if you look at most curriculums across universities in Africa, they are outdated. I have lecturers who are in some African universities who are still teaching using their lecture notes from 1975.
1975.
When technology has advanced, when processes have changed, systems have changed. So we need to look at the overall curriculum, which needs to be reviewed, and we have to offer degrees and programs and training that matches the current job market.
Yeah, it's a good insight, and I pray that since you are part of the education sector, especially as a Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge for academics, I do trust Victoria University you have always tended to go deep into those areas, looking at what can help someone excel in a career. But of now, there is a lot that is needed to be done.
Absolutely.
And I just, I was referring to the National Development Plan 3, which is of 2020, 2021, 2020, 2024, 25. And the research shows or indicates that Human Development Index of 0.516, Uganda is classified in the low human development category, ranking at 162 out of 189. That's a serious margin, especially in terms of performance. And the target for National Development Plan 3 is for improvement of productivity of labor for increased competitiveness and better quality of life for all. Yeah, you've already stated almost a recommendation, but there is much more that is needed to be done. And it looks to be, if at all I say there is a need to make an education overall, from whether primary up to university level or whether tertiary institution level of education, there's something that is needed to be done. In the according to this report and the National Development Plan, the agro-industrialization, we have jobs which ranges to the number 150,000. The mineral development sector, we have jobs, but we don't have the trained labor. And you remember our parents over there asking, what are we talking about? They are taking their children to secondary schools. They are paying for heavily for them to attain higher level of education for diploma degrees. But what they are giving, what they are supporting in terms of acquisition of higher qualification seems not to be adding up. Unemployment increases. The reason why I refer to this is you cannot transform an economy when there is a certain force, the labor force is not in production, because productivity is pertinent. The same area, other sectors which are demanding for employment opportunities, we have petroleum, you have talked about it, tourism, natural resource, environment, then climate change, land and water. We don't have specialists. And one asks, if one is to be a specialist, where should he go? And the issue is, I come back to you, the way how our course, and this should be uniform, because your university alone cannot transform this country alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it means there is a need to have a consensus and agree over an overall of the way how some of our courses and the lacking courses that are in universities. This goes back to the National Council of Higher Education, because to have just, you grant this, the license, then you say you are a recognized university, which recognition does not impact the country economies. We believe something needs to be done. What else deeper than this that you believe the country needs to look at?
Yeah, I think again, let's come to training of people generally. There's a lot of focus, especially considering that government a lot of time gets funding from different institutions, global institutions, World Bank and the rest of them. Thanks to the primary education program to ensure that people have access to primary education. The problem we have is that there's a lot of emphasis on completion, on ticking the box. 1 million people have gone through primary school. This number has gone through primary school. Our education has moved into ticking boxes rather than concentrating on learning. It is the learning process that matters in education. So I think we need to give a bit more focus.
May I add this as you continue? Learning process and the skilling.
Absolutely.
Yes, you can continue.
Yeah. So the learning process, acquiring skills. So it's not just having a degree or having a diploma or having a certificate. What can I do? It's not just what I know. What can I do with what I know? So at the moment, our educational systems and curriculums are designed in building people to know things that they cannot use. And right now, the current job market and the future job market is not just looking at what you know, but what you can do. If you notice, the likes of Apple, Amazon, Google, now you can climb through the job ladder without a degree. Right now, you don't even need a degree anymore. What's important is what you can do. So our education needs to focus on what people can do. So a lot of our curriculums are very theoretical. We teach a lot of theory. It has to be practice-based. And there's a recognition by the government, there's a recognition by various agencies in Uganda, in Africa, that we need to move to competency-based training, where people are able to do things, because that is where the innovators of this world will come from, when they are able to do. There are no jobs out there. Uganda is not creating enough jobs for its graduates. So our education should change in a way that graduates are thinking about becoming employers of labor rather than jumping from one place to another, looking for a job and getting discouraged. And so we need to change our curriculum to become more practice-based curriculum, where students can leave a university, leave a technical college, leave a vocational center, and set up their own businesses, because it's not just what they know, They are not able to use what they know to do something, because that is what matters right now in education. And if you're going to grow the economy, you're going to, right now, for example, in Uganda, there's too much dependence on government as the major employer of labor. It shouldn't be so. Government should create an enabling environment that allows small and medium-scale enterprises to flourish. And these are the people who will create the job. Government should, like I often say, government has no business in business. Allow the private sector to develop, but government just needs to create the enabling environment.
Yes.
So we need to have those kind of conversation about how we teach, the focus of our education. Is it on just ticking the boxes, or is it on the learning process and people actually acquiring skills that they can use when they leave the university or leave the colleges where they go to?
Yeah. So thank you so much. We'll be going for the commercial break, and it's a pleasure to be with you, dear viewers. We'll be coming back to look at sector by sector, especially you talk about petroleum, talk about water, talk about land, you talk about minerals, and we are lacking, our graduates. Even if it's not necessarily a degree or a master's, just you have your certificate 6 months, but you can be able to know how to use your land. Please, it's a pleasure to be with you as we meet in the next session.